Hey everyone, welcome to Brad's Train Videos and More YouTube channel. And we're going to catch some trains today. So let's get to the trains. You can always like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Alright, let's get to it.
Find a better place to hang out than the middle of the Great Plains. So anyhow, brings us time to where we are today. The Bailey Yard started growing real rapidly at about 1901 and hasn't stopped since. Currently, we encompass 2,850 acres of territory. Put that a little bit of perspective, that's 8 miles from our eastern limit to our western limit, and about 2.5 to 3 miles from north to south. A friend of mine who's a mathematician and statistician told me that, mathematically speaking, since you have enough territory here, you could put 900 memorial stadiums in this place and still have rooms for concessions. So I'm like, okay, well, that's good to know. At the time, that was a piece of useless information that went to the back of my head, and thinking I'd never use it again. So here we are. So off to your right here, what you see, these are locomotives that are getting ready to go into our diesel shop. It's a diesel repair facility. We have 11 bays in this yard, or in this facility. They can hold upwards of 56 locomotives in one shot. And on an average day, they'll usually process approximately 100 locomotives a day. They come through here for various reasons. Oftentimes they're routine inspections. Oh yeah, we're gonna have to stop over here. You'll see that real good. Yeah, we got the Abraham Lincoln up here. For you guys are the only ones to actually get a good look at it, because before it was tucked away back over here. We could barely see it. Yep. Yeah, we go right through here. We can make it through here. Yep, 1660, the Abraham Lincoln. It's actually brand new. The whole thing's brand new.
I remember seeing that when they first came out.
Just like the rest of the Heritage fleet, they actually are used in service. They're just kept a lot cleaner than our regular locomotives, that's all. Piece of equipment. We had the George Bush come through here, the 4141, for anybody who's might have seen that. Big Boy comes through here quite often, and that's always a fiasco when that comes in. That thing's got an entourage probably that stretches from North Platte to Cheyenne as that thing moves down the road. It's just unreal. No, it's probably in the system someplace, but I don't know where. I have access to that here. Yeah, we can pick it up.
I remember seeing it the first time when it came through Nebraska.
Now this smaller building that we're coming through by here right now, this is a supply operations building. Everything we use here in the yard in Bailey pretty much comes through here. We have this patterned after the military supply system. They operate in the same manner. Everything we need here in the yard, for the most part, comes through supply. It's really, it's really not practical if we need something to go down to Walmart and buy it. Because chances are, let's say we need a tablet of paper, we probably need 10,000 tablets of paper. So Walmart really hates it when we go down there and wipe them out. We honestly, we have done that a few times. But anyhow, you can see they have everything. They supply this yard with everything from toilet paper to locomotives and everything in between. You see a lot of the equipment standing out here outside, being well taken care of in the weather. Now, anybody who's had any kind of military experience and experienced the supply system of the U.S. military, they are just as stingy with their stuff as the military is. I absolutely promise you. while ago, I tried to get a pair of gloves from the counter over there. Yep. Yep. There's one that had a little problem here a while back. Or what's left of it.
Oh, that's not good.
People employed here, we're looking at about 4,000 to 4,500 people employed, taking all crafts into consideration. Yeah, we'll go in the hump. Yep. All these locomotives here, I've been through the shop already. They're getting ready to be put back in service. Yes, sir.
I've been seeing a lot of those Norfolk Southern.
What's that?
I've been seeing a lot of those Norfolk Southern locomotives running around UP lately.
Yeah. Yeah, some of these are actually mothball status, long-term storage. They're we actually bought a lot of locomotives years ago when we were running lots of coal, and now we don't need quite that many. So consequently, it actually causes us, because we have so many in storage, we actually lease some of them from other companies just because it's cheaper to lease them for the short term that we need them, as opposed to de-mothball one. So basically, when you see a train coming down, you're driving down the highway and you may see a train off to the left or right, and all kinds of different cars on it. Might have some tank cars, might have some box cars on it, and so forth. Not all those cars on that train are all going to the same end destination. A lot of people have a common belief, and they'll look at a train and say, yeah, that's going to Fort Worth. Well, yeah, it might be going to Fort Worth, but all those cars aren't going to Fort Worth, are not destined for it. So nothing originates or terminates here in North Platte. Everything, this is just a classification yard.
Hey everyone, welcome to Brad's Train Videos and More YouTube channel. And we're going to catch some trains today. So let's get to the trains. You can always like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Alright, let's get to it.
What happens is, let's say we're on a train from Cheyenne coming this way. And that train, once it reaches North Platte, it'll get parked into the east receiving yard over here, which is just to the west of the east hump. And the crew will go ahead and cut the head end of the locomotives off of it and bring them over to the shop to be worked, where the car will get on there and they're going to drain all the air off that train. Make sure there's no air in the air brake system. Then a remote control locomotive crew, a switch crew, which is uses a remote control locomotive, is going to run around to the west end, and they're going to start shoving that train up towards what we call the hump. All the hump is just a mound. It's a hill. The downside is about a 4.5% grade, and what we do is we shove them. Once they get to the apex, there's a pinner up there that's going to pull a release pin and send either one car to 4 cars at a time down the hill. Now there's a big computer board up there that tells them where to pull that pin, so he or she knows where they're going to pull the pin at, how many cars to send down. And after that, gravity kind of takes over. Now, as you can see, this is exactly how it works. Mother Nature takes over, kind of comes down the hill. But one thing that we do have to control is the speed of these cars. Our goal is to make sure that when these cars get in their destination track, that they meet the next car in that rail at no greater than 4 miles per hour. So to accomplish this, if you can hear that little noise out there, and actually you're really lucky to be inside right now, because if you were outside without ear protection, your ears would definitely be ringing. That you kind of think of fingernails on a chalkboard times 1,000. But yeah, well, you'll like it now if you get out and listen to it. But anyhow, so we have 2 opportunities to slow these cars down before they get to the destination rails. Once these, if you look out here towards your front, you see all these tracks out here. These are called the bowl tracks. And to imagine what they look like, imagine a tree laying down on its side, and you have the main trunk, which would be the actual hump itself, and And then as it goes down the hill, it branches out into 2 branches, then 4 branches, then 8 branches. Same thing here. It goes from 1 trunk to 64 tracks. Each one of these tracks has a destination. So that train that you saw coming in, once it gets up to this hump, that train ceases to exist as it was. And all these cars get separated into their own tracks. Now, the way we built the next train is on the other end of these tracks. There's other switch crews on the other end. Okay, special agents will be here to check everybody's ID card here in a minute. No, that's just a hump signal, letting them know that something's going. They might have a hot car coming down or something like that. It's hard to say. Normally they blow that when they're starting to hump cars or they're stopping a hump. And it looks like they stopped humping for a little bit. But anyhow, so on the other hand, other end of this bull tracks, there's switch crews back there, and they're building the new trains. So they'll take one track and double it up to another track and another track, however many they need. They pull it straight down the departure leads. Well, at those departure leads, from there they tie that train down. The car forces get on there, lace up all the air hoses. They have yard air hooked up to them, so that's it. So they can charge the brake lines. They'll do the air tests on there, and once that's passed, they put a locomotive or 2 or however many locomotives they need, and they'll call the crew for it. So turnaround time from the time it parks in the east receiving to the time it's outbound again averages 12 hours plus. So they're not really here much longer than about 12 hours. Now the controls of all this is all computerized, this whole thing. We can intervene with the computer if need be. We can manually operate the retarders because once in a while something will happen and we'll need to stop a car from going any further. These retarders can dead stop a car right in its place. Sometimes we have transients. We'll see they like to make their little temporary homes in the brake wells of the grain cars. It seems to be their preferred method. And oftentimes we won't see them in there until we've already released the car going down the hill. So they think they're scared now, wait till they hit the retarders. What's that? And these cars? Oh, transients, riding cars, bums, yeah, hobos. Depends on what year you're from. Transients, depends on your age. So anyhow, that's the entire process. The east hump here, we do have 2 humps here in North Platte. You'll learn here real soon, if we have an east or a west something, we have the polar opposite of it. So if we have an east hump here, we have a west hump. And so forth and so forth. You'll be seeing that here in a little bit. East and west thing. So we have 2 humps, but they're actually configured differently. There's 2 types of humps. This one, the east hump where we're at now, is what's called an inline hump, which means that the trains come in the receiving yard. It's a straight line shot to the hump, straight line into the bowl, and straight line out to the departure tracks. Very proficient system. The west hump is built differently. It's a side-by-side hump. The receiving tracks are on the south side of it. The hump, they have to pull that train out and shut down pullback tracks and then shove it up to the hill. And then once it goes down, the bowl tracks are in line with the hump. But when they trim them out to go to the departure tracks, they have to pull them out and then shove them down the departure tracks. So not quite as proficient, but it had to be built that way because the original west hump was still there. So that's how they had to build it that way. Question back there, buddy?
What happens if they don't make it to the other car?
Somebody repeat that. I did not hear him at all.
He said, what happens if it doesn't make it?
Okay, outstanding question. What happens if it doesn't make it? Well, it depends on exactly where the location is of that car if it doesn't make it. If it's an area where it's not going to interfere with any other cars coming down here, we'll block off that area. We can manually block that off in the computer system, and so cars will just hump around it. Or if it's in the way and slowing down progress, they can actually just shove the rest of that train down here and just give it a little tap and let it roll. So either way, we can clear that up. Now, as I said earlier, there's no electricity running this stuff. This is all pneumatically powered. So all these blue lines you see out here and all the blue tanks and everything, that's all compressed air. So the reason we use compressed air is because compressed air will operate the retarders and the switches a lot faster than we could electrically. If you've ever seen an electric switch throw, you see it's a pretty slow process. When we throw switches in the bowl, they need to be able to throw instantaneously, which you could actually, if we were able to be outside, you could hear them throwing out there. It's just clink, 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 clink. I mean, they just throw instantly. So as you can probably imagine, that probably takes a lot of air, more so than your host up here. So this building up here, we see these 3 tanks, these coils up here. This whole building is a gigantic air compressor. Okay, just slightly more air than that 33-gallon Craftsman air compressor you got at home. Definitely bigger than mine. So that air, and it's not just compressed air, that air has to be completely filtered out, it has to be bone dry, it has to be pristine air. Any little bit of contamination or moisture will just completely gum up the works. Well, the bowl tracks, the question was, are they flat or how are they configured? The reason they call them bowl tracks is because they're slightly bowed. So they're that way when cars roll in, if they get too far in the other end, they're moving slowly, it'll start pushing them back towards the center. We got a question over here. How many derailments do we get? Well, the preferred number is 0, but I really don't have a count of that. And it's probably a number that's locked away deep in Omaha right now. Yeah, it does happen. I'm not going to deny that we come off the rail once. So all you got, the biggest thing you got to remember is anytime you're not on the rail and you're in the dirt, us in transportation, we call that a bad thing. So we have some more places back there. How many cars make up a normal train? There really is no such thing as a normal train. Almost every train is different in its makeup and its length. And as of right now, the FRA hasn't mandated a maximum length for our trains. So they're whatever we can haul. Some of you may have noticed, you go into work, you used to have to just sit there for 5 minutes, wait for this train to clear, but now for some reason you're waiting for 10 minutes. Okay, well that's us. We're making longer trains. Almost every train that used to run out of here as a single train now gets doubled up to another one. So they're twice as long. Now, up until now, we've been pretty much just talking about the manifest trains or mixed freight. We do deal with another type of train here, and that's called a unit train. Some people call it some people call it a bulk commodity train. And what these are trains that never have to be classified. They have the same origin point, they have the same termination point. So to expedite their movement, and a good example of those is a coal train. Other trains may be designated like that, depending on what grain trains are at certain times of the year. But those are trains that never have to be classified. So to expedite their movement, we use the run-through system, which sitting off here to your right, this big yellow thing over here, is our east run-through, which we call it, that erector set looking thing, goes over 10 tracks. And what happens, what goes on there is a train will come in, and from the west, it'll stop on the rack, the head end will stop on the rack, the crew will depart after they secure the train, and then you'll have your mechanical forces and your car forces get on there. They'll run the air brake system, they'll clean up the locomotive if you're lucky, they'll do some light maintenance on it, and then they'll call the next crew for it. So unlike a car that goes over the hump, these cars usually are en route within 12 hours of stopping. These trains are out of here within just a couple hours. Now you probably noticed the big fuel tanks over here. There's our fuel is piped in. It's I don't know what they call the blend, but I do know that it will only burn in the locomotive. Do not try it in your diesel pickup. telling you right now, I don't know that from personal experience, but I've known some guys that did it, and man, it cost them a lot of money to fix that thing up. So, yes, sir. Multiple what? Yeah, there is a merger in the works between Norfolk Southern and Union Pacific. So, I heard it was just approved by the STB. So before we see any of that out here, we'll there's your locomotive. That's was the locomotives that are pushing that train up towards the hill on the east side.
Yeah, that's what's pushing it up.
Now all these trains you see off here to your left, these are all waiting to go over the east hump. There's 9 departure tracks or 9 receiving tracks here, and they'll usually do all nine of those tracks per shift. Bailey Yard works three shifts every day, 3 8-hour shifts, 365 days a year. The yard is never shut down unless it's a safety mandate from the FRA. So, on average day, each hump will hump over between 700 and 1,000 cars per shift. Once we get up here to the middle of this bridge up here, we'll go ahead and stop. There's a good, outside of the Spike Tower, this is the only place in North Platte that you can actually see the east and west limits of Bailey Yard. It's one thing to hear 8 miles, but it's another thing to actually see it. And we won't be able to see the north and south boundaries just because there's really no positive markers, and the only place you'd be able to see them is from the spike anyhow.
That's just length, that's not width. It's halfway to Yukon wide, the length to Waterford.
Okay, if you look off to your right, see that big white water towers? Okay, that area right there is our eastern limit for the yard.
You see it? All the way down there.
And if you look off to the other side, off to the left, yeah, the bridge, that's our western limit. Underneath of us here, there's two different trains here. One looks like it might be a grain train, the other one's an intermodal train. This kind of gives you a good idea of just exactly how long these trains could be, or are right now. But these are only single trains, so oftentimes we'll double these up before they leave here at our Platte. That train coming at us right now, that is coming out of what we call the forwarder departure yard, and those cars just came over the east hump or the west hump, so they're getting ready. They're heading out towards Cheyenne. Yeah, they can do that. That's usually the maintenance guys. They're just moving up. They can usually move a cut of cars. That it's nothing wrong with it, as long as they have a way of stopping it once it starts rolling. Yeah, there's all kinds of different ways you'll see them move cars. Not necessarily here in the yard, but other places they have big pulley systems with cables that move these cars. There's quite an array of things that move these around. Okay, let's go, bud. This first building that we see up here, this area we're coming to right now is the west run through. This first building we see, this tan building with the circle emblem on it, that's actually a Wabtec building. That's not Union Pacific. The reason we've got that here goes back to the early part of the century here. With in the early 2000s, we were running coal trains like they were never going to stop. This yard was just jumping with coal trains. Anywhere you could tuck a car or a train was a coal train. It was just completely nuts. But we also bought a lot of locomotives at the time. Well, locomotives are just like a new car when you buy a new car from the dealer. Some things only the dealer can do. Well, you know, the locomotives are exactly the same, so it really caused a lot of consternation with the head shed in Omaha. You spent $2 million for a locomotive. We just get it. We can't put it on a train because it has to get a bolt replaced. And since our guys in the shop who can do everything to a locomotive aren't qualified to turn this bolt and put a new bolt in it, we had to ship it down to North Little Rock, Arkansas, where the turnaround time could be anywhere from 90 to 120 days or even greater. So you can imagine the heartburn that you just spent all this money on a locomotive, hasn't pulled 1 ounce of freight, and now it's gone for 6 months. So, or 3 months, however long. So I'm sure they had some real meaningful discussions and meetings and stuff to come up. And at that time, that was General Electric, and they built this building. They had their own personnel in there, and now they do all that. They can do all that warranty work here in North Platte. So now we can lose our locomotives anywhere from just a couple hours to a few days. Now, if you'll notice over here, the west rack is actually, or the west run through is configured completely different from the east side. And the reason being is the receiving tracks up here, or the coal tracks as we call them, there's 33 of those tracks. It's not really financially feasible to build a rack to encompass all 33 tracks, especially when every train needs to go through this run through. So they built this offset here where when the train crew comes in, they cut their locomotives off and they bring it up here to the racks where they can be refueled, resanded, worked, inspected, and get put on by the outbound train or by the outbound crew. Okay, so you get a better shot of the west rack over here if you look kind of behind you. We'll see it again because we're going to come back this way. You may have noticed you see a lot of these signs out here on these signposts where it says safety first, with the blue flag on there and everything. That's a form of protection that we have for our workers where they're actually working on trains or locomotives. They put these blue flags up or blue lights to signal, and usually they're associated with the derail that'll come up on the rail once that flag is thrown up. And what that does, that protects people that are working on or in between or around cars and the rail. So so nobody can get into that rail without hitting that derail.
See that?
So that is important. Hold on a second. You got a question there, everybody?
Yeah, what's your question?
What's the purpose of that caboose right there?
What's the purpose of the caboose?
Oh, we will definitely talk about that here in just a second. So anyhow, with the blue flag protection, what makes it unique and extremely effective is that the only people, once a flag is up, the only people that can take it down is the craft or the individual person that put it up. So if I'm a train crew and let's say I got to put 4 cars on the head end of this rail and that blue flag is up and the derail's up, I just sit there and wait. As if I happen to accidentally get over that derail, once again, when trains or locomotives or cars hit the dirt, we call that a bad thing. And my job's probably in jeopardy at that point. But that does exactly what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to knock you off the rail. You can't be directed by anybody to take that down if you didn't put it up or your craft didn't put it up. And no matter how much they complain or threaten you. And that unfortunately does happen once in a while. Now the caboose, we had one very observant young man up here. Is one of the last running cabooses in the UP system, probably the last one. I did have a gentleman the other day said Boone, Iowa had one that operates too, but he couldn't prove it. So as far as I'm concerned, this is the last one. We don't use this in a classical sense, like the way the caboose used to run on the rear end of a train with a crew on it. We use it nowadays to relieve crews out on the main lines. If the weather's really bad, inclement blizzard weather type, we can't get our 4-wheel drive Suburbans out there to relieve our crews. We'll put the crews in there. We'll put usually heavy ballast cars on either side of it and locomotives on either side facing outboard, and then we'll take them and relieve them that way. So consequently we call that our blizzard bus. So the other side over here, past that intermodal cars right there, that whole yard over there is what's called the spare yard. It's most of these coal trays have a contract length. They have to be X amount of cars before they depart here for the mines. So oftentimes what will happen is once these trains are getting worked, the carman will find something on a car that can't be fixed in the rail, so we have to set it out. So we have cars of the same type over here that we can put back on it and bring it up to contract length to satisfy the shipping contract. Yes, sir. Oh, I figured somebody would notice that. Trying to sneak around it a little bit. Yeah, we had to borrow that sign for someplace in Nevada. But now Area 51, there's really two stories to Area 51. There's the official UP policy, and there's probably more of the realistic aspect of it. Which one do y'all want to hear? Both, yeah, figures both of them. No problem. Now, officially, once you get back in the heyday for the coal runs, we ran 51 coal trains through this yard right here. Okay, that's 51 trains came in, parked, were serviced at the fuel rack, locomotives put back on, and ran out the door. So 51 in one day. I know that may not sound like a big number to some people, but in the railroad world, that's huge. Probably nobody else in the world could have done something like that. Now, and probably more realistically, as one of the people who have worked here at the run-through as a trainman, you have to understand what's in this building here. Inside that building, you have the yard masters who are in charge of all operations here in the yard, all movement. You have the car foreman, who is in charge of all the carmen, the mechanical foreman, they're in charge of the locomotives and everything. And you have the operating managers in there. So you guys can probably see where I'm going with this. There's a lot of brain power in that thing. And they're making decisions. They're saving the railroad on a minute-by-minute basis. And oftentimes they make decisions for us out here doing the work that makes strange things happen out here. Okay, and they cause strange things as a result. And yeah, so there are aliens in there. And oftentimes when a trainman comes over to get a little something for this crazy-ass thing they did, that's why they have the bunker. So you notice the sign, the bunker, that's why they got the bunker, so they can retreat.
Do they still have the switchman department?
Yeah.
They still have the switchman position?
Someone got something?
Switchman?
Do they still have the switchman position?
They still have what?
The switchman position?
Yeah, the switchman position we still have. It's one of the few traditional jobs we still have. Yeah, all the switch crews here at Bailey Yard, they're all remote control locomotive. Where they used to be 3 and even 4-person crews now, a lot of these are 1-person crews. So it's taken on a different form, but we still have that position. And we wouldn't be moving that farther. You know, here's a good rule of thumb. Never challenge it's not coming at us. You still got to stop and pick up his conductor yet too, so. No, you're good. You probably noticed there's a lot of undeveloped areas here in North Platte, in the Bailey Yard here, such as we're looking at on the left over here. That's partially due to potential expansion in the future, and also it's also in our own right. We're actually a game preserve for the state of Nebraska. Not officially, but in a roundabout way we are, because it's a safe place for any animal. We don't allow trapping, hunting, or anything like that here. We pretty much have every type of animal that's indigenous to Nebraska someplace in this yard. We do have a pretty sizable deer population here. I actually have tons of rabbits. In the fall of the year, late in fall, early winter, we do have a couple packs of red and gray fox that come into the yard. They feed on that rabbit population. Then about springtime, April, May, they depart, go do their own thing, and somehow miraculously all those rabbits come back for the next fall. We haven't figured out how that happens yet, but we're working on it. Pretty much every snake you can think of, except we really don't have many rattlesnakes, but they're just a couple miles up the road. There's a lot of them. Thank God. I hate rattlesnakes. Bull snakes. Well, we got tons of bull snakes. So yeah. I actually last year caught a bull snake out here, put it in my shop because I had a mouse problem. Now here, a year later, I have no mouse problem, and I have a bull snake that'll surprise you every time you see it. Okay, now I'm sure you folks have probably seen trains where they might have a couple locomotives on the front end, maybe a couple in the middle, and one or two or three on the rear end. What that's called DPUs, or distributed power units. And what those DPUs do is they help us control the two major forces that affect train movement. And those forces are buff forces, which are trying to compress the train, and draft forces, which are trying to pull it apart. Our trains are long enough nowadays where we have to have them. They used to just have them on the rear end, and then you had the leading power, but now they're long enough we have to start strategically putting them in the middle, because we could get ourselves into a position where the head end might be on flat ground, and the middle of the train might be on both sides of a hill, and the tail end might be on a downhill side of a hill. So at that particular point, you have both forces acting in multiple places on your train. So to be able to counteract that, because if all you had was locomotives on the head end, chances are you would probably break that train 10 times or more before you got on a flat rail again. So to do that, we have the DPUs. Now the DPUs, distributed power units, now they can be used one of two ways. One is they can be fenced off to the head end, or what they call putting up a fence. And what that means is all those locomotives will do exactly the same thing that the lead locomotive is doing. So if the engineer speeds up to notch, from notch 4 to notch 5, so do all of them. If they take on some error, they all take on some error. Or the engineer can run those independently. So he or she can run each one. They can be applying brakes on the head end, and they can be pushing on the rear locomotives to try to compress the train, to keep it together as much as possible, going over uneven terrain. So it takes a lot of skill to be able to use those things proficiently. And believe it or not, even adding more locomotives like that actually saves us fuel. You see off here to your right, I don't know hardly anything about maintenance weight equipment, but I'm told this is the best equipment that you can get for maintaining tracks. We do have a full-time team that pretty much works right around the Bailey Yard area. So the one thing that Omaha wants to do is constantly keep this place open. Anything that blocks mainline traffic anywhere that affects North Platte becomes a company emergency at that point. Because if this yard shuts down, I mentioned earlier that we operate 365 days a year. And we didn't always used to do that. When I first hired on, they would shut the yard down for major holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, whatnot. And then as time has gone forward, we find out that we shut the yard down, and even if it's for 24 hours, we'll have trains backed up from here to Cheyenne and from here to Council Bluffs, Marysville. and then it takes about a week to get all that sorted out and get back moving again. So it's just a lot more cost effective to pay the training crews the holiday pay and work them. And believe me, the crews don't mind. They, they'll work Christmas for 2.5, double time and a half. So. Now the trains you see over here, off to your right, or excuse me, your left, those are if you notice the train that was leaving when we came over the bridge, that's where it came from, was the forwarder yard over there. So all those cars here not too long ago just went over the west hump. So they're destined for westbound traffic. It's just so that if somebody is riding in them, it doesn't close it and block them in. Not normally, no. We get transients on trains. We don't get a whole lot of them here in North Platte. We will usually see transients in the winter time. They'll ride the rear DPUs because there's heat on there, and they can use the sidewall heaters to warm up food and things like that. Normally, we don't do a whole lot about transients. We'll call the special agents when we find them. Special agents will come apprehend the person, and if they don't have any warrants out for their arrest or anything like that, they'll go ahead and give them a ride outside the yard, drop them off, usually downtown someplace so they're close to food or whatever. If they do have warrants, they'll just drop them off at the sheriff's department. So, but we don't really have a problem with them here. Other areas have a lot more problems with them. When I worked in the Council Bluffs yard, the transients there knew those trains better than I did. You'd be over there and transients just walk up to you and say, "Hey, when's the KC leaving here?" He usually leaves at 6 o'clock. Like, well, it's probably on time. I don't know. Go about their business. So, most of them are fairly harmless. Once in a while, they're not quite so, but most of them are. So off to the left over here, you can see the west hump. It's quite a bit smaller in stature, but it does the exact same thing. It classifies cars, but instead of having it going from one track going over the hump to 64 tracks in the whole, there's only 50 tracks over here. So it's a little bit smaller, but it does the exact same thing, and they even go the same direction, even though it's for different direction traffic. So that's one of the benefits of the side-by-side.
What do they use sand for? What do they use sand for?
You see over here that remote control locomotive is pulling the next train they're going to hump out right over there. They have to pull it all the way down the pullbacks so they can get it almost to the bridge down there, and then the switch will throw behind them. It'll line them up towards the hump, and that locomotive will start shoving that train up towards the hump. Now, all the switch jobs here are remote control locomotives. So if you're looking around out there and you see a locomotive moving, there may or may not be anybody on there. You're good on this side.
What do they use sand for?
These ties, the wooden ties, they used to be able to they used to let us go ahead and take some of those ties for our own use the garden borders, things like that. Nowadays they're a hot commodity for landscapers. So before they get torn out of the ground, they're already purchased by landscapers, so we can't do that anymore. But they have converted pretty much all of our main line from wood ties to concrete ties, much to the bane and consternation of your train crews. We never really realized how good wood ties were until we got the concrete ties. Wood ties, they absorb a lot of shock from those locomotives as you're riding it, and we didn't really realize it at the time. But once the concrete ties came in, you feel every bump and nick in the rail, and it goes right up your spine and into your head. And you can, even though you may have just been sitting on the seat inside that locomotive for the last 10 hours to get to Cheyenne, your back will be plenty sore by the time you stand up again. So there is an issue with it. Find out the suspensions on the locomotives aren't built for your safety and comfort. They're built for the safety and comfort of the locomotive. No, they won't put it back to wood again. They will, actually the next biggest thing, I read in a magazine here a while back, they're starting to work on or test out plastic ties. So whereas the wooden ties were supposed to have a 20 to 30 year lifespan, concrete tires are supposed to last up to 50 years. These plastic ties are supposed to last at least 100 years. So I'll never find out for sure. So we talked earlier about the diesel shop being able to do anything that needs to be done to a locomotive. This is the cousin to it. This is the one spot, or it's the car shop. Its official name is the one spot. Don't know why. But these guys can do the same thing with cars. They change tons and tons of wheel sets, but they can rebuild air brake systems. They can refurbish a car if it need be. But primarily, the bulk of their day is taken up with wheel sets. We do change tons of wheel sets out here. If you've ever seen it done, it's a pretty neat thing. If you haven't seen it done, I would suggest you get on YouTube and look it up, because these guys can take any car out here and change all 4 axles on that car faster than I can get the tire off my pickup. It's a pretty slick deal. Yeah, it's the reason all they do is they get a forklift underneath it and lift the car up. They slide the trucks out, put new trucks and wheels underneath it, and away they go. The car body is not mechanically attached to the wheels at all. It just sits on center pins is all it does. So it's able to rotate. Forklifts can lift them up real easy. Tornadoes can really lift them up real easy. So, as we found out here a few years ago in the west went through, we had empty aluminum coal cars all over Lincoln County. We had a tornado go through the west run through, and all you saw in that spare yard over there was just rows and rows and rows of wheel sets just sitting there by themselves. Not a car in there. Coming on our left side over here, there's our wheel defect detector. Once again, referring back to the mid-2000s. One of the things we found by the amount of use we were getting out of our wheels, steel wheels on steel rails under a lot of weight and a lot of use cause unusual amount of wear and tear and unusual stresses on the wheels. We were starting to have a problem with wheel defects and sometimes causing derailments. So they came up with this idea to be able to slow a train down to 5 miles per hour and run it through this building here. And in that building is a series of X-ray machines and infrared imaging. It would analyze every wheel from the locomotive all the way to the rear end, and then they would send that report to wherever that train parked. So anything that needed to be changed got changed, and at that time they could send that train underway. It took almost all of our derailments out of there for wheel defects. What you got, buddy? So back to the wheel defect detector. We didn't use that for very long, and it kind of had a rocky going starting out. The first train that we ran through there actually derailed. The locomotive derailed inside the building. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, there's a lot of track people eating crow over that one. But once they didn't get it running, it worked pretty well. But the problem is that you can only do one train at a time. It's 5 miles per hour, so it wasn't really as effective as it needed to be. But what it did do was it provided us with the knowledge to develop the technology to build a defect detector to put on the main lines. So now we can do that same thing to every train running on the main line and going at track speed. So they don't have to slow down to 5 miles an hour. They can be doing maximum authorized speed. So it did serve its purpose, and so we just keep it there for nostalgia's sake. So anybody happen to know the actual name of that place? Our outbound trains heading east. So just a few hours ago, all those cars were in the East Bowl and came over the East Hump.
Hey everybody, this is Brad here. I'm going to call it a day for the train videos. If you like this video, Give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel called Brad's Train Videos and More. And thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye. So, thanks for watching this video on my channel. If you like the video, give me a like. Comment on this video or any other videos I posted. And subscribe to my channel. It certainly helps me get the views that I'm looking for and do all that good stuff that I send you. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on my next video. Alright, bye bye.